My amplified unit, salute, red team, go! And channel members, activate those gold cards, because we got a packed show today. We're going to talk the status of Naomi in WWE, also Goldberg, and what's next for him. We're going to talk Bobby Fish, and he coming out and saying that Tony Khan left a lot of money on the table by misutilizing him. What's he talking about? We'll discuss that coming up. Also, Britt Baker is taking us inside the locker room of the Media Scrum, All Out, or as they're calling it, Brawl Out. Yet the latest AEW talent that's telling you exactly the atmosphere, what they were all feeling, even using the words heartbreaking and embarrassing. And from here on out, AEW has to be careful who they let into the organization. Obviously, talking about Philip CM Punk Brooks. We're going to talk all about that as well, man. Britt Baker has a lot to say about Brawl Out. So there's a packed show coming up, and I want to start off by a little bit of a jump off from yesterday's live stream. If you don't know, we put up just a badass live stream last night. BC fully amplified. My entire amplified unit was on fire. We rocked that out. Supposed to be about 45 minutes. We went almost 2.5 hours. Coffee's being thrown at the channel. BC getting more amped by the minute. And before you know it, man, 2.5 hours flew by. Thank everybody in the red team, everybody gold status for rocking that out. Same rule applies for these type of vidcasts, straight up audio format. Smash that up on the way in, help the algorithm down below. Just give that up button a power bomb or a super kick or a DDT, maybe a 450 splash, a Canadian destroyer, whatever your favorite move is. Give that like button a smash right upside the dome piece. And don't be afraid to become a channel member. Get your gold card. You guys rock, man. That was absolutely a ton of fun. I gave 25 minutes of notice before that stream, and hundreds tuned in live. And since then, thousands have been able to catch that. So appreciate that big time. As I said, we have a lot to go over, packed show, but I want to start off by jumping off of that stream from yesterday. It was about the booking botches of Tony Khan. Decisions like Danhausen and freshly squeezed orange juice Cassidy winning this battle royal and getting a title shot, and pretty much nullifying what AEW as a whole is supposed to be, right? An alternative, right? They, meaning WWE, is sports entertainment. We are real pro wrestling. But then you do weird shit like that, and it absolutely contradicts it. Freshly squeezed orange juice Cassidy and Danhausen going for tag gold. You have all the referees holding down the ladder for Powerhouse Hobbs. A huge backlash for that. Referee Bryce Rosenberg, whatever his name is, he comes out to his referee's defense saying, "What do you want us to do? Have our coworkers break their neck?" And this led to Jimmy Cornette responding, "No, we just don't want you to fucking they shouldn't be in those positions anyway." Jim Cornette says Tony Khan is booking his talent to basically paralyze themselves, and the talent is freely saying, "Hey, I'm willing to do such." So why even get in the way, Bryce, the referee? That's what Jimmy Cornette said. That opened up an even bigger discussion. Now, this is not the first time that officials have held down ladders. WWE, they do it all the time. You just don't really see it because Kevin Dunn and his production team for WWE is much better. They don't really show it on camera. They have all the angles figured out. After 4 years, AEW should have that, but that's always been their issue from day one, and here we are 4 years later. They don't know how to position their cameras, and I don't even know if they pay attention to those details. But at the end of that match, 3 officials are holding the ladder so Powerhouse can just grab the fucking big, giant donut floaty that was hanging above that gold donut floaty. Maybe they're calling it a fucking Sonic the Hedgehog fucking brass ring. I don't know. But he captures it with 3 referees aiding him in the assist, right? That you might as well give them the same ring. They won the match as well. It was Powerhouse and the referees that won that match. If you're holding it down because they're about to do some stupid spot, okay. But you cannot hold it down when they're about to win the match, because that's literally aiding. If you don't have a working ladder, then you're unprepared and you're just running a sloppy shop. There's no excuse that you couldn't have gone to the local Home Depot and gotten a couple of extra ladders that Powerhouse Hobbs can climb up. Is the guy afraid of heights? Did he tell Tony Khan ahead of time that he can't climb the fucking ladder? Make sure you have 17 guys down below? I don't know, but there was booking botches galore, and BC talked all about it in yesterday's stream. So that's where I want to start off. We talked about the rating at the start of that stream. As we went live, BC found out the rating and found out that they lost over 170,000 viewers from just last week's big announcement episode, which led us all to believe that this week we're going to hear Tony Khan announce 3 more big announcements for Wednesday, even though he already has a post-Revolution pay-per-view show, so that's going to bring him some viewers back, but he'll announce some announcements. And they lost 170K, man, and I found that out as we went live, man. That was a legit live reaction in yesterday's stream, and I was befuddled that they went all the way back to 833,000 viewers. How did they do that? How did they lose that many viewers in 1 week? How were they at just 833? Oh, we're going to talk about it, because BC is going to break it down. As you see up on your screen, that is the actual cue by cue, quarter by quarter, segment by segment breakdown of this past Wednesday's Dynamite, March 1st, 2023. I didn't have the fine folks at WrestleNomics helping out. Usually they put together a really fancy graph, and it makes it much easier for BC to explain it to my audience. But I didn't have their help today, so this is totally a BC production. I had to do a lot of my own research, break down the numbers, match it to exactly who was wrestling at the time or who was cutting a promo. So let's kick it off, man. Q1. You see how that says 948,000 viewers started AEW Dynamite. Now, if you're familiar with the channel, you know we break down the numbers all the time. Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, whichever it is, man. We like to dig deep into the numbers. And if you're tried and true and you know how these work, you know that you start off usually pretty solid. I mean, there's most weeks you're going to be over 1 million because you have the Big Bang Theory lead-in. That's their big show on TBS right before Dynamite, and that is a massive audience even for reruns. And then you lead into Dynamite, so even if you're not a wrestling fan, you get a pretty big lead-in, over 1 million usually. Right when you see 948 for Q1 for Orange Juice Cassidy versus Big Bill, you know something's not right, man. You didn't even start off with 1 mil. You didn't even start off at your peak 950. You're at 948. That led BC immediately to think, I bet you a lot of fans were legit pissed off that they got wamboozled last week with the big announcement that ended up just being a reality show announcement. A press release is what it should have been earlier in the day. But instead, Tony waited 7 Qs last week, 7 segments all the way into the dead spot Q7. And then he said, well, we have a reality show, but let me have Adam Cole announce this. He didn't even want nothing to do with it. The whole show, he said nothing about the announcement, hoping people would forget. He tucked it into a 3-minute seg during the dead spot Q7. And by that point, people were like, only the main event is left. So either they forgot to announce it, or maybe it's next week. Maybe I was hearing things, and it wasn't even a big deal by the time you got the Q7. So he planned that perfectly, man, because he knew he was wamboozling his own audience. So when I saw 948,000 at Q1, guys, I legit said, you know what? I bet you a lot of fans, even the tried and trues, were pissed off. They were like, dude, you're not even getting my fucking time next week. And it looks like a lot of them stay true to that. 948 to start the show is never a good sign. And then by the time you went into Q2, and again, that Q1 was Cassidy, Big Bill, right into the match. I mean, again, you have to start with a hotter beginning to the show. You have to give your fans a reason to stick around. Otherwise, it's It's channel changing inducing. That's all it is. You're just giving them more of a reason to change the channel, because how many people are going to want to set the remote down for 2 fucking hours because you're starting with Big Bill and Orange Juice Cassidy? No offense to him. Could be a decent match. But you want to start the show with something red hot, a storyline that they can sink their teeth in, get on the edge of their seat, and then you keep going back to it during the show. And at the end of the show, you should culminate the fucking story. And if you do it correctly, it's a badass cliffhanger, and we jump it over to next week, so fans have to tune in next week. There's a philosophy to this, guys. There's a formula. And for some reason, Tony Khan just doesn't want to follow it. He just wants matches. And he jumps the show into a Cassidy-Bill match. So by the time you got to Q2, which was the finish of that match, you went down 56,000 viewers. No shit, you lost 56,000 viewers down to 892K. You start at 948, and by one 15-minute segment, you have lost 56,000 viewers. Like that, snap of a finger. Your 18 to 49 demo, by the way, you went down 29,000 viewers. Your own 18 to 49 key demo, you lost nearly 30 G's. Snap of a finger. And by doing that, by the way, nobody got to see Jon Moxley's or all those people missed Jon Moxley's backstage promo. I think that was cut last week. The ladder match intros in the beginning of the ladder match. Yeah, all of that is sacrificed because you didn't do things correctly in Q1. So you lose 56,000 viewers Q2. Now, when you go over to Q3, you actually went up 2,000 to 894. Now you say, well, okay, at least you went up, right? You didn't lose anymore. But this was a ladder match in Q3, guys. This was a ladder match. And you couldn't even break 9? You only gained 2 Gs from Q2? I mean, if this was any other match, we'd say, okay, hey, listen, beggars can't be choosers. We'll take the 2,000. But wow, when you say you threw a ladder match, it's like when BC used to play back in the day. I forgot, maybe 2007, 2008. What was it? Like Xbox maybe, or maybe it was a PlayStation. But it was Raw versus SmackDown, and you could play GM mode, and BC would be like Monday Night Raw, and my competition would be SmackDown. I get to be the general manager, and I get to make matches, right? And SmackDown would be beating me in the ratings, and so BC would be like, all right, well, you know what? I'm just gonna fucking load the show up. I'm gonna have a street fight. I'm gonna have a fucking whatever, no holds bar. I'm gonna have a cage match. I'm gonna have a fucking tornado match. I'm gonna have a ladder match, whatever. I'm gonna load that, just deck up the card. And then when the rating came out, SmackDown somehow still beat me. And I was like, well, wait a second. I loaded the fucking card up. I had ladder matches and cage matches and no holds barred. There's no way SmackDown beat me. It's like this. You fucking wasted a ladder match, middle of Dynamite, and you gained 2,000 viewers. But again, maybe you look at it, beggars can't be choosers. At least finally in Q3, we went up 2,000 to 894,000. Now we go into Q4. This is the last quarter of the first hour. Chris Jericho versus Peter Avalon. Now I know most of you are saying, what the fuck is a Peter Avalon? Do your research. I ain't got time for that. The point is, this is the demo god, so he's definitely going to pull in an extra 50, 60,000, right? Because Chris Jericho is the demo god. Well, guys, that is not what happened. Quarter 4 pulled in 836,000 viewers, which means Q3 to Q4 lost another 58,000 viewers. It was the biggest drop of the night. The only thing close to it was the drop between Q1 and Q2. Cassidy, Big Bill. Q4, Chris Jericho and Peter Avalon. People tuned out in droves. probably not the best bet to put a guy Peter Avalon in the middle of a Dynamite on your go-home show when you're already desperate for some ratings. So the demo god became a demo dud last night, and I got much love and respect to Chris Jericho, and I know how much he means to this industry, and it sucks to say that, but if you're going to call yourself that, you got to deliver, man. I mean, you can't lose almost 60,000 viewers when the quarter before you was only at 894. You couldn't even get the 9. And then you lose another 58. So the Jericho Peter Avalon start of Q4. And it ended with Christian Cage and Jungle Boy Jack Perry playing in a fucking graveyard. I don't know what this dude's doing. But when it was all said and done, Q4 garnered 836,000 viewers. Now, we're about to start hour 2. Let BC get a swig of coffee. All right, hour 2. We go to Q5. Now, again, we're going into Q5 at 836,000 viewers. This is not good. AEW at this point is in a whirl of shit. So Q5, they really have to bring it home. We really have to somehow get closer to 900K. So what does Tony do? We have Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker backstage. We have Rio versus Tony Storm, where Rio rolls up Tony Storm for the pinfall. Again, I bring up this all the time. Is this booking for Tony Storm any better than WWE? Getting her ass cheeks spray painted 2 weeks ago, and then this week losing via a roll-up to Rio. I mean, at this point, wouldn't you rather have your face in Charlotte Flair's pie in WWE? It's not that much worse. But anyway, I digress. Rio rolls up Tony Storm in Q5. Hayter and Baker are backstage saying words. Hook versus Matt Hardy and the House of Black are backstage. Cutting a promo. All of that collectively went down. Q4 to Q5 went down 33,000 viewers to a dreaded 803K, guys. 803. They're hanging on by a thread. Any lower and you are about to go to the 700Ks on a go-home show. You can't say it's not being dramatic. It's not over embellishing or over exaggerating. I mean, this is devastating when you're in your 4th year. You're going into what should be a massive pay-per-view, and you are literally hanging by a shred because you're about to go into the 700Ks. 803,000 viewers Q5. Q6 has to bring this to life. Unfortunately, they let the Rio and Storm match leak into Q6. And by that point, your audience already told you by the segment earlier when you lost 33,000. So 5 to 6 said, we don't care about Rio and Storm. And then you had the post-match with Hayter, Baker, Saraya, Soho. I mean, that just seems like redundancy at this point. Keith Lee and Dustin Rhodes are backstage. And then you begin the Casino Tag Team Battle Royal. All of that mishmash lost another 27,000 viewers. And Q6 dipped down to 776,000 viewers. They could not hang on anymore, guys. Sometimes you hang on at the edge of that cliff for so long, and your hands are fucking giving out, your arms are giving out, nobody's there to fucking make the save and pull you back up over the cliff, and you just fucking fall. And in Q6, AEW just ran out of any gasoline that was still left in the tank, any fuel that was still left in the tank. They were running on empty for so long, they were kept on driving, they couldn't find a gas station, and that fucking vehicle just puttered out. And they finally dipped in Q6 all the way down, not just by a few, all the way to 776,000 viewers, man. Sad to see that. I mean, BC's looking at it as you guys are, and I honestly, I'm befuddled that it got to this point, that their segments are now already into the 700. Your tried and trues, guys, which I've said for the longest, the tried and true diehard AEW fan base is between 850 and 950K. 950 is their high peak. 850 is their low peak. The entire rating for Dynamite didn't even hit their low peak of their diehard audience, which should have been 850. They only pulled 833. But when you look at 776,000 viewers at Q6, I mean, their diehard tried and true left by almost 200,000 diehard AEW fans said no thank you. Q6, 776. Now, Q7 was the end of the Battle Royal. Right? At this point, people are... Now, this is usually the dreaded quarter of the night, guys. Usually, this is the biggest dip of the night. It's where they stuff nonsensical bullshit. And I really think Tony Khan knew that this was a gamble of a booking decision, who he had about to win that Battle Royal, freshly squeezed orange juice and Danhausen. And so he's like, if I put that finish into the death spot, it's going to work out peaches and roses, just like last week when I made my bullshit announcement. I tucked it in Q7. By that point, not that many people were watching, and it was no harm, no foul. Every quarter before that was higher than ever before because people waited all night for the announcement. Then they realized it was only the main event. I'm out of here. And then Tony delivered his bullshit reality show announcement. So I'm sure he said, okay, if I just put this gamble of a booking decision into the death spot, the Q7, nobody's going to be watching. What he didn't account for was at that point, people were like, all right, I made it through the whole fucking battle. I might as well fucking see. Like, we're at the end. It's the final few people. Who's it going to, is it going to be some Lucha Bros? Is it going to be Butcher Blade finally getting shine? What tag team is going to get a big bolstered push? And when it was all said and done, of course, you get freshly squeezed and then Housen, but Q7 actually went up 5,000 viewers. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but again, if you guys follow these numbers every week like BC, that's huge because it's usually the death spot. It's a massive dip. And when I see 776 in Q6, I'm thinking Q7 is going to hit 725. Even though I can't fathom it, there's no way it's not, right? No, they went up 5,000. And that's unfortunate for Tony Khan because that's why there was so much backlash with the winners of the Battle Royal. It's because it wasn't as big of a dip, probably. And so you saw more backlash on it. But 781. So the good news is, okay, we went up 5 for Q7 at least. So maybe the main event, which by the way, that was the actual what is it? MJF Bryan Danielson promo that everybody was talking about. Danielson dropping the F-bomb and all that. So you're thinking like, okay, that's at least going to take us, man, it's got to at least take us past 800,000, right? Guys, sadly, get this, and this is their payoff, right? I mean, Revolution is Sunday. This is your big 60-minute Iron Man match. You're hoping that everybody is waiting to see the face-to-face between MJF and Danielson one last time before Revolution. Guys, not only did they not go near 800,000 in that last Q8 segment with MJF and Danielson, but they lost a massive 45,000 viewers, guys. Q8 brought in 736K. I can't even believe I'm saying that number. Easily the lowest number of the night and the lowest number that BC has seen in a very long time. I don't know if I've ever seen that low of a number for AEW Dynamite. I'd have to go back into the archives. The main event slot for Q8 reserved for MJF and Danielson. By that point, the entire fucking night was a shit show rating-wise, numbers-wise. And by Q8, everybody else just said, fuck this. So by the time Q8 rolled around, over 220,000 diehard AEW fans said no thank you. That is my point, bigger than any other point that I'm about to give to you. Okay, you can say, okay, casuals weren't just into it that much. They really wanted to see basketball games last night, Beasley. Whatever excuse you got, that's fine. The fact that their own diehard tried and true said no thank you on the go-home show to Revolution, just days before Revolution. The fact that over 200,000 diehard AEW fans said, I don't even need to see MJF and Danielson live right now. That is so telling. And I hope this is the wake-up call for Tony Khan, because you cannot, there's no low. Q8, your main event segment, pulled in 736,000 viewers. You can't go any lower or else you're going to be in the sixes. Everybody that makes fun of NXT numbers, by the way, usually they're around the 600,000s. This week was a rough week for them as well, 555, but usually they're around 600,000, right? You're about to have your segments dip into the 600,000s, guys. So you make fun of NXT, you call yourself competition to WWE, you might be getting an ass whooping segment-wise by NXT soon if you dip that much lower. Now, they'll get a big push next week because it is the post-Revolution show. Post shows for pay-per-views usually pull in at least another $50K. So they'll get a little bit, and who knows, maybe Tony Khan announces six announcements for next week. Who knows? But this is, we saw 2 weeks ago where it was headed when they were at an 824. Now you pulled 833. By the top of the show, you only started at 948, and by the end of it, you ended up at 736. So let's do the math real quick. You ended at 736, you started at 948. What is that? I'm doing that top of my dome piece. 836, 936, 200. So about 212,000 viewers left the show from the start to the end. It's only a 2-hour show, and you lost 212,000 viewers. But there's people out there who go, it was such a good show, I don't understand it. No, it wasn't. You liked it maybe, and that's awesome for you. That does not make it good. And most of us saw that. Snap of a finger, blink of an eye, drop of a dime. We saw that unfolding throughout the entire night. And the booking botches did not help. That is the breakdown for Dynamite. We spent a bulk of that live stream talking about the show, and it's really cool to be able to break down how we got to those discussions, how valid they truly were. And now we're finding out today with the breakdown that they were more valid than even we thought. So we hope them the best in the future. We just hope that they start to listen and really change it up, because this is not good. These numbers, guys, on the graph that you see right now, the last line there from Q7 to Q8, that went off the grid. It totally went off. I didn't have enough room. The drop of 45K from 7 to 8 was actually lower than that. That bar goes even farther lower, but it went off the screen. I mean, that is not good. Anyway, guys, that's the breakdown of Dynamite. If you're a big AEW fan, I know that was a rough half an hour to get through, but hopefully you know that it's truth and that we want to see it succeed, this company, and that's why we're helping, and that's why we have to talk about this. And in case you're wondering, we do this for WWE, Raw, and SmackDown as well. We don't get quarterly breakdowns as vivid as we get Dynamite. That's why we can't do it for Raw. SmackDown, we like to do the same exact thing. It's the weekend, so we can't spend as much time, but they're usually up anyway. That's the hottest show in wrestling. They're usually around 2.4, 2.5. So, I mean, there's not that much bad to really break down number-wise. So it doesn't take too long for a SmackDown. Dynamite is the most concerning show of the week, so we spend a little bit more time on it. Trust me, if we had Raw quarters, more vivid and easy access to them, and we could break it down as we could Dynamite, man, we'd probably be here 4 hours a week. So trust me, we don't. This isn't a channel where we just pick a company and then we shill for them or we wave the flag. We're trying to get everybody to succeed. I've had the channel personally for about 6 years, and we've ripped Monday Night Raw for pretty much the entire 6 years. Not because I wanted to, because we tried to make it better. And Dynamite has to get the same type of treatment, man. We want to see these shows get better. And if you're a true fan of these companies, it's channels like this you really want to listen to, because this is the only way that those numbers will spike back up, is if we're honest and we start telling the boss, Tony Khan, yo, buddy, things need to change. If you realize, man, he doesn't thank anybody when it's under $1 million, right? You guys are just fucking peasants to him at that point. If you get to the $1 million number, then he thanks everybody, right? He comes up like a fucking groundhog on Groundhog Day. If he comes up every Thursday morning and he doesn't get $1 million and he doesn't see his shadow, he dumps right back into his fucking hole for another 6 weeks. $212,000 fans said check you. By the end of the show. Damn. All right, so let's move on, guys. What do you want to go to next? We're going to talk some Naomi soon, Goldberg, so we'll switch over to some WWE stuff in just a few minutes. Let's stick with AEW, we might as well, for the next story or two, because I also want to talk Bobby Fish, but we'll start off with Britt Baker. Britt Baker recently opened up pretty big about the Brawl Out Media Scrum. That's right. That's what we're calling it now. And by we, I mean the whole wrestling community was doing this before BC caught on. But I guess we're calling it Brawl Out now. And Britt Baker recently on Barstool Wrestling is what I think it's a podcast maybe. But she opened up big time. And we're starting to see a lot of wrestlers just kind of open up freely and start talking about it. Hopefully this puts to bed. I say this every time a wrestler comes out in AEW and speaks vividly about what happened on that day and on that night in backstage. And I say this all the time, but you still have people that go, no, it's a work. Hopefully this stops that, man. You're literally getting their candid thoughts. This does not make Phil Brooks look good at all. It doesn't make AEW look good. There's no work or story you could possibly say would benefit anyone. Should this all have been a work? That's absolute bullshit, guys. Now, if Punk ever does come back, which I don't think he should, Phillip Brooks and Jeff Hardy are two dudes that their bodies have broken down. They just don't look happy anymore when they're in fucking the ring. They should just kind of call it a day. But to each their own. It's their life, their decision. If Phil Brooks ever comes back, yeah, you have to make it a work, obviously. But this clearly was not. And now Britt Baker is just the latest to tell you how sad this situation was. Let me get a swig of coffee. I want to give you an exact quote from Britt Baker. Just the front lines when this all happened, man. Taking it all in and seeing how sad and embarrassing it was. Those are her words, by the way. But listen to this. Let BC get a swig. So Britt Baker says, and I quote, "That scrum was heartbreaking. It was embarrassing and it was disappointing because it just felt like for a moment in time, this felt like very much a disaster. You never want that feeling, but it happens all the time. That was definitely a time in AEW where I was like, man, this sucks." Baker goes on to say that people don't really realize that without people like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, there is no AEW, and that they were wrongly characterized. Funny how no Phil Brooks was mentioned there, so clearly we see that, like most of the locker room, they're firmly behind the elite. There is no AEW. And for that moment in time, it was just a wrinkle in the fabric that they since ironed out. She goes on to say, I think everybody in this company is a huge benefit for AEW, and I think they all truly love professional wrestling, and there's a lot of passion involved. I think everybody in AEW can probably say that they hate what happened, wish that it hadn't happened, and it happened differently. But you can't take that back. We can't go back in time. So let's move forward and be smart about how we do things. Don't just spit out every random stupid lie, rumor that you've heard. Let's really be smart now and let's try to prevent this shit from happening again. Baker getting a little emotional and pissed. Baker says, I really feel bad for everybody involved, and I'm happy that professional wrestling has moved on from that because for a second, it felt like it was all eyes on us for the wrong reasons. I'm so proud in how resilient AEW is. I'm really happy and proud of this company that I work for now. She says, as far as it pertains to preventing this type of thing, Baker says we have to be careful about who we let into the company. We're all on the same team. And we have to be careful who we allow into the company. Well, obviously, that's who do you think they're talking about, man? It's not fucking Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. They started the fucking thing. Obviously, that's Phillip. So, you know, I mean, you see, man, all of these, everybody that comes out and says something, man, they're speaking from their heart. It's not like we can bash them. This is their point of view, and this is how they feel. And just because they don't agree or side with Phillip Brooks doesn't make them fucking bad or wrong. But you kind of see they're all kind of seeing it from one main point. Now, there's a few people that say, nah, Phillip was right, and Phillip, you know, he shouldn't be the villain and all that. Whatever, man. But when the majority of the locker room is kind of like seeing it one way, maybe, just maybe you are the fault. Maybe you are the reason. Maybe you were the lethal dose of poison, as Vince McMahon said in the past. You know, who knows? But Britt Baker is the latest to open up, and she got really candid about that time. It was a dark time in AEW, man, and she literally called it embarrassing, disappointing, heartbreaking, and sad. Damn. You know, we've heard things like that from other participants in the locker room since, but like not as vivid as Britt Baker. Very interesting. And real quick, to wrap up the AEW talk, let me go over to Bobby Fish. By the way, when we get over the WWE talk, Naomi, Goldberg, I also want to talk Zack Ryder, if you don't mind, because that's an interesting development as well. But Bobby Fish, obviously, you know, big in the Undisputed Era in NXT. And they all go over to AEW, and it was, you could tell Tony didn't know what to do with him, man. Tony doesn't even know what to do with Adam Cole, baby. Even before the injury. I mean, it was weird what was, you know, how you were booking Adam Cole, even as short-lived as it was. I don't have too much promise when he comes back, to be honest. If the booking's not going to do anything correct by you, best of luck, dude. Because in NXT, somebody like Adam Cole, not the biggest dude, but a shit ton of talent, but Triple H, Paul Levesque, got 1,000,000,000% behind him. I don't know. It looks like Tony does like Adam Cole, but even if he's 100% behind him, 1,000,000,000% behind him, does he know how to book Adam Cole? 3H's did. Gonna be interesting to see. But anyway, all of Undisputed Era, everybody that went there anyway, O'Reilly, Fish, even Cole, it just seemed misplaced. I mean, as whether they were together, separate, they were all 8,000,000,000% better off in NXT as far as booking, from what I saw and so many of you. So Fish ends up going there. Fish ends up leaving because he sees like there's nothing is happening with his character, with his booking. Now, I always said Fish, if you're going to look at the group in its entirety, he's the one with the least personality, right? He's a real ass kicker. I mean, he won't mind a good real-life brawl if need be. He calls out Phillip Brooks all the time. I mean, he gives no fucks. I like Bobby Fish. But as a talent, bro, you better have lofty goals for yourself and really believe in yourself in this pro wrestling game. What he said recently doesn't exactly tell me that, because he's saying that Tony Khan left a lot of money on the table by not revisiting Undisputed Era. I'll give you his exact quote, actually. So Bobby Fish says, and I quote, "I would say that me leaving was amicable with AEW. We just didn't see the same numbers." He says, also didn't help, Cole and O'Reilly were on the shelf with long-term injuries. He says, if you don't maximize the opportunity with us, I'm going to feel that there was some money left on the table. So yeah, I think there could have been more done. Now, the problem with this is he's clearly stating that he should have been linked up with O'Reilly and Adam Cole from the jump and long term. Why would you go to another company just to recreate what was already done? Why would you want to be Undisputed Era 2.0 or negative 2.0 if it turns out not good? Why would you not bank and bet on yourself? Bobby Fish, me, can go to AEW and turn heads, make even more money, and rock this pro wrestling industry to the core. But instead, he looks back on it and he says, well, I should have been with my Undisputed Era mates. Well, that's not how this works, man. It's sink or swim sometimes in business life, and especially in pro wrestling. You cannot hope that the promoter is just going to recreate what was already done in another company. Now, you could say easily it makes sense, and you can also say, no, we're going to let you guys sink or swim on your own. Bobby Fish, and this might not be a popular a few words, but it's just the truth until proven otherwise, in which case I'll be the first one to throw the parade in the street and say I was wrong. But Bobby Fish is not the dude that's going to be leading a pro wrestling company. He doesn't have the personality and charisma, and that's fine. A lot of real life kick-ass badass dudes just don't have personality and charisma, right? Sometimes it works out, like Brock Lesnar actually does have some, but he was linked up with a great mouthpiece like Paul Heyman, and it worked. And then you get people like Ronda Rousey, and if there's no other boxes that are checked off and she's just badass, it ain't gonna work. And if booking's not backing you up, Ronda Rousey, that's why. And as a fan of Ronda Rousey, I'll be the first to say that her pro wrestling career thus far has been a flop. No connection to the crowd. People don't give a shit. She's been booked horribly. Promos are hard to hear. She doesn't check off any other box. It's what we've seen time and time again. It doesn't matter if it's a Steve Blackman or a Dan Severn. Ken Shamrock had a little bit of fucking spunk in him. Ken Shamrock actually worked, I feel. But it's few and far in between. It's going to be hard for Bobby Fish, so I'm sure he knew his best chance was to be linked up with Adam Cole, baby, and O'Reilly. Hope to get maybe Roddy Strong. But that's just it's not what happened. And you can't look back and say, oh, I feel money was left on the table because Undisputed Era could have reigned terror in AEW. No, you made the mistake of leaving WWE's NXT. You guys left. That's where you were booked strong. I'll actually defend Tony Khan here. He has no obligation to make you Undisputed Era just so you can get fucking as much potential out of the group and keep your name value. Bobby Fish without Undisputed Era in NXT, that was going to be a hard sell. It's going to be hard for him to get over on his own in NXT. And guys, I don't think it would have happened. And that's why his NXT stint, with or without Undisputed Era, was short-lived. And that's why his AEW stint was short-lived. Because he knows, on his own, it's a different beast. So you could say there was money left on the table, but there's no saying that an Undisputed Era negative 2.0, you don't even have Roddy at the time, there's no saying that would have been a success anyway. So it's just weird when I hear people say, "Oh, we should have just been a group from the jump." That's not necessarily. Sometimes maybe, but you can't just lean on that. You can't use that as a crutch. I really was hoping that Bobby Fish had something a little different to say there. I wasn't being maximized with my full potential on my own. I didn't want to even be near Adam Cole and O'Reilly at first. That's what I want to hear, man. Be the big fish in that pond. No matter the size of the pond, be that dude. But he didn't go that route. As far as Naomi, guys, let me go over to the WWE side of things. Naomi is going to be at WrestleCon. So, we all heard that it was looking really good between her and WWE. Obviously, she has her significant other, in WWE. So she's not going anywhere. I would never expect her to go, she's not going to show up on an AEW Dynamite show or even Japan, to be honest, and join Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks. she's coming back to WWE. We heard things were pretty smooth before Rumble. I actually thought there was a massive chance she could show up in the Royal Rumble. But no. And now Naomi taking over to social and saying it's Feel the Glow Friday. Welcome to WrestleCon. And there's a graphic of her showing up to WrestleCon this year. So that's I don't know much about WrestleCon. And by the way, it was WrestleCon that announced on their social that it's Feel the Glow Friday, by the way. Welcome to WrestleCon, Naomi. So it wasn't Naomi that put that out. Maybe by now she did, but now there's people with Legends deals, and there's people currently under an actual talent contract that are showing up as well. So this does not mean at all that Naomi has segregated from WWE. In fact, last I checked, she's still on the main public roster page, so she's still contracted to WWE, guys. But like Lita, for instance, is also, last I checked, is going to be at WrestleCon. Lita is currently under a talent, not just a Legends deal. And then you have Ric Flair, who is back into a Legends fold. I think Mick Foley still is as well, with like Kurt Angle, people like that. So there's other people that are connected to WWE. So I wouldn't put too much into this, but she is doing her own thing leading through Mania, man. Not that I was expecting her before Mania anyway. Could she show up at WrestleMania in some form? If so, it would be interesting to put our creative hats on and see how that works. And in closing, guys, I want to send over to where we want to go. Goldberg. Actually, I want to talk to Zack Ryder too, so we're not going to end with Goldberg. But Goldberg has one earmuffs, maybe, man. Maybe you guys want to end the video here because this vidcast, podcast over. Goldberg has one match left, so you have not seen the last of Goldberg. Goldberg has one match left, guys. Last we saw him, I believe, was Roman Reigns, maybe Elimination Chamber, Saudi Arabia last year. I think that was the last time we saw Goldberg, so many months. A lot of people thought, okay, it's finally over, you know. That's it. Not quite, guys. He's probably going to show up most likely at their Saudi event in a couple of months. I think that's in May is their next one. That's probably where you're going to see Billy. So I'm just bringing that up now because don't be shocked if right after Mania we start hearing Goldberg is returning. And I know some of you guys are like, I don't mind it. You know, Goldberg back in the day, he just brought that fierceness, that believability, that reality, right? I mean, he would headbutt his own fucking head to the door. And that worked when you're a little younger. You know, he tried to do it in WWE. He knocked himself out. You guys remember? He took on The Undertaker in Saudi. He was knocked out for most of the match. Then he knocked himself out more during the match. He almost dropped The Undertaker on his dome piece a couple of times. I mean, you know, it's fun in games when you're a little younger. Sometimes you got to adapt a little more. I love the beast that Goldberg is, but the booking has just been horrendous. And when you're that part-time, there's no... I don't see the value. I don't see the value to where it is anymore. And that's sad to say because usually you tell me Goldberg is going to be on Raw. Goldberg is going to be on SmackDown. Goldberg is going to be wrestling at the pay-per-view. That should be exciting us. But over the years, we started to see, brother, here we go again. And that's probably because for a few years, people were just being squashed by the dude. My boy Bray Wyatt in one of the most unthinkable acts, booking botches ever, beating Bray Wyatt in a few minutes via fucking jackhammers and shit. What the fuck? Kevin Owens had the job out to him. Just a bunch of just bad booking decisions. I remember he beat Brock Lesnar in like 60 seconds at Survivor Series, something like that. It was one of the biggest botches ever. So some of the biggest botches in recent memory have been involved Goldberg, and I think that's what a lot of people notice, see, and remember when we hear Goldberg coming back. He last put over Roman Reigns. There was no way Roman was going to go underneath Goldberg at that point. So I'm hoping that's a trend. Hopefully his last match, he also has to drop it, take an L, and bolster somebody. Help somebody really collect a big W. I don't care if it's fucking Elias or Rick Boogs and he's booging out. You know, Boogs versus Goldberg, that's a harmless Saudi Arabia exhibition match. I'm down for it. Let's make something out of Rick Boogs, for instance. But Goldberg should not be running through somebody like a Boogs and Elias or even a fucking Kofi Kingston. I don't give a shit no more. No. You know what I mean? It's not helping, guys. It's not just BC's opinion. Oh, BC, I disagree. I'm okay with it if Goldberg wins. It's not doing anything anymore. It doesn't do anything for Goldberg. It doesn't do anything for the company if he wins. It doesn't do anything for the talent that he is destroying because it's not even a match. It's just destruction of the talent. Anyway, the news here is that Goldberg has one match left. Now, some reports are saying multiple. That's not what I heard at all. Two reputable sources that BC goes through both said the same thing. There's one match left. I don't know if they want to tack that on, if there was a small injury, and they said, all right, we'll give you more fucking time, but just give us one more match. You never know. They always alter things like that. But I heard both sources that I go through, both said the same thing. No. One more match. Saudi should be it. So we'll see. And Zack Ryder, I wanted to end it on this. Zack Ryder went to file his the name Zack Ryder, I believe, right? Yeah, he went to file on for Zack Ryder because he saw that WWE had let it lapse. And then WWE found out he was filing, and they went to fucking refile for it. And so Zack Ryder backed off. He's like, what the fuck? I'm not taking on the fucking giant. I want to work for them one day soon. No matter what he says, he knows he does, man. And now he's got his gal, Chelsea Green, for those of you that don't know. Chelsea's his old lady. So... he wants to be fucking back, obviously, and that's why he's filing for that Zack Ryder name. He's trying to fucking, he sees things in motion. He's trying to get ahead of the curve. Maybe he did it to see where he stood, like, do they have any interest in me at all? And all of a sudden, WWE is like, nope, I'm taking that shit. In which case, why would WWE take Zack Ryder from him at the last second? In fact, it wasn't even. The seconds were over. It had already lapsed. They find out he wants his name if you have no interest in him. It looks to me like WWE is bringing back Zack Ryder. And the way Zack is saying this, or Matt Cardona, I should say. I should be calling him by his name now, which is also his wrestling name. But Matt Cardona filed for Zack Ryder. There you go. Otherwise, people are like, BC, that's his real name? What's he doing? Although you do have to do that in most cases as well, guys, believe it or not, because you have to file your name under a licensing and trademarking and copyrights. It's a whole legal process. So anyway, Cardona's like, oh, I just stepped off because it's WWE. But yeah, it's really fishy. Like, I'm thinking, like, why would they do that? Oh, well. And I'm like, what do you mean, bro? That's a huge thing. You found out it lapsed. You went to file for it. And they fucking blocked you and took it. Yeah, I would think that's a little fishy. So the point is, I think there's something in kind of in the works. I think something with Matt Cardona and Paul 3H's Levesque is in the works. You already got Chelsea Green there, which is his lady. I think you're going to see Zack Ryder soon in WWE. I know that's going to please a lot of you guys. I always like Zack Ryder. I'm not going to say this is really going to move the pendulum, guys. I don't know what... All these years later, Zack Ryder was always fucking... he was just booked mid-card. We know that. His best moment hoisting that IC title up on that top of that ladder at WrestleMania. And he always could have been something and more than what he was. I truly feel that way. And yeah, we're going to play the game of now with Levesque. Will he be booked such? The interest isn't there with BC as it is with a lot of you guys, Zack Ryder's back. Okay, there's a lot of dudes right now in WWE that should have high octane booking, and they have nothing. They have breadcrumbs. And Paul Levesque has to get on the fucking ball with these individuals. Zack Ryder's just going to jump the line? Why? Zack Ryder? I don't know, bro. Just because you're storming it up on the indies does not catapult you to the top of WWE, bro. Broski. But I hope the best for him. And, if he comes back, I just hope that it adds value to the shows, man. My concern with this is that we're just bringing in more and more and more people. And you're going to start seeing the AEW effect where you're going to have 150 people on your roster. And you don't know where the fuck to place them. And you got guys like fucking Malachi and Miro and FTR and Wardlow for a long time. They're all at home waiting for the fucking call to come back to work. And there's just too many people, So you got Tony Khan on the line saying, well, I got to use Action Andretti this week and AR Fox and Dan Housen and Danny Garcia. And the Martins, Dante Martin. I have to use all of them first, but yeah, we'll see what I have for you in a few months. WWE is gonna you're bringing in all these people. That's fine, but man, I hope you have a plan for them all. So a weird development with the filing of Zack Ryder. All right, kept you guys here long enough. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. We talked everything from AEW to WWE, from Britt Baker to Naomi, from Bobby Fish to Goldberg, from the ratings to SmackDown, which is coming up, man. Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. That's coming up, man. We're going to talk all about it within the next 24 hours. This is their first face-to-face weeks before WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes is going to the Blue Brand. This should be interesting. Top guy, I'm out. BC saying check you. Don't forget, think, be, live, amplified always. Smash that up on the way out if you haven't already. And BC will be right back with you within the next 24 hours, and we'll be talking SmackDown. Cody Rhodes face-to-face with Roman Reigns. Check you.